Yes.
Okay, great. So this is the motivation that we had for rebranding ourselves. Uh, as you guys would know, we are called Vedatya. I'll get into why we named ourselves that, but the fundamental reason why we chose to rebrand right now is, simply put, we have evolved. Uh, we wanted our brand to reflect what our future plans are. We have been fundamentally, or historically, we've been a hospitality dominant institute, both in the culinary and the hospitality management side of things. Where we see ourselves going into the future is actually a design related push as one of the things, but other applied programs as well. So mass communication as an example, a lot of digital marketing related or digital business related push as well. So with all of that in mind, we just felt that the brand that we had didn't actually communicate that very clearly. So that was one motivation. The second is that we moved to our current campus about 6 years ago. It's 16 acres of campus, and I'll speak more about that. But the last 6 years that we've been there, that has actually influenced us and shaped us. So in some ways, when we moved to, as part of the campus design, when we moved there, we had certain ideas about what we want to do on the campus. And some part of the campus is still left to be built out. But in hindsight, that was actually not by design, but by coincidence. That has been a good thing because it's allowed us to actually reflect back and adapt the campus to where we think we want to go, and in return, also get adapted by the campus itself. I'll speak more about that as well. And last but not the least, we'd never gone through a structured or a formal or a branding process. There were certain agencies that we engaged with. They helped us with the logo previously. There were some brand colors that we had defined, but nothing to the extent that we currently have, that Girish has done for us. So we just felt that for all these three reasons, we just wanted to go ahead and rebrand ourselves. By the way, if there are any questions, please stop me in between and I'll be happy to answer that as well. Or we could take questions towards the end too. So I spoke of ethos as to what are those fundamental reasons that we have used to define ourselves and the brand to be reflective in that. The first of which is this pursuit of knowledge. Kanika spoke a little bit about that. We are, we're absolutely crazy about pursuing knowledge. In fact, it's to a point where our name reflects that. Ved, as you know, in Hindi is knowledge. Aditya is sun or source of light. So our name itself, Vedatya, is actually a coined term between Ved and Aditya, which means that it's a source of light. And it's not just in the name. As part of our master planning for the campus, we actually have taken physical instances, physical instantiations of this knowledge, and place those as well. So one example of that is a Bodhi tree. So this is on our campus. It's within a labyrinth. The Bodhi tree, as you know, is symbolic of knowledge. So therefore, we wanted one place, from a landscaping point of view, the Bodhi tree to be on campus as well. The second ethos that we actually follow is applied learning. I was just watching a video this morning about how there are different types of learnings and how the whole education system needs to evolve to actually cater to the individual student, as opposed to what is prevalent in India, where the student actually has to adapt himself or herself to the standard delivery based model. So, and the key to that is applied learning. The idea being that you learn much, much better when you actually go out and do. And to that extent, a few examples that we have are, we actually have on our campus a farm to fork infrastructure. I'll share that. There are design installations that we're doing. This is specific to the design program, as well as, student managed food trucks. So Here is an example of our farm to fork infrastructure. These are our students. This is our farm. And our students actually get involved with the farming process. And it's not just the vegetable farms that we have. We have a dairy farm that we'll come up with. There's a fish pond currently on campus. There is a herb garden. We're growing fruit trees. So there's this whole infrastructure that we have that actually leads to a much richer student experience. And that's something that they carry, of course, within the classroom and then beyond into their careers. This is an example of the applied learning from a design point of view. The tree that you see on the top left of the screen, that is, again, something that we've done internally. This is the fish pond, by the way, and the tree right next to it. And these are instances that help with the design process. We have 16 acres of campus, and literally there's so many places for our design students to get involved and do applied stuff there. The food truck that I spoke about, these again are our students who actually manage a food truck. For those of our students who have an entrepreneurial mindset, there is no better way to learn how to manage a small business than to run that while you're still a student. We actually tell our students that the best time to make a mistake is actually while you're a student, because the downside of doing so is very little. So this is another example from a culinary point of view. The third ethos that we have is actually of sustainability. And there's no better example of that than what we're currently going through. When you just sit back and look at the COVID pandemic that we're currently going through, that simply is because humanity has extended beyond its limits. We're now consuming animals that we shouldn't be, because that's not where their natural habitat is. So we're actually going into their natural habitat, bringing those animals back into wherever the human life is, and then consuming that. Those animals over the years over millions of years, have built an immunity to the COVID virus, but we haven't. And that's why we are where we are. So there's no better example of how humanity has extended itself to a point where it's actually hurting us. And therefore, sustainability and using organic practices is very key to what we do. In fact, it's to a point where, amongst many other things, we've planted 800 trees. Our director, Mr. Manjal, he's actually leading an effort to get us Griha certified. That's one of the green certifications. And part of that was actually to say, we need to, for the size of the campus that we have, we need to have at least 800 trees. But this whole thought of sustainability started from the very beginning of when we did the master planning for the campus. So it has to do with the orientation of the buildings itself, so that we're minimizing the exposure to the sun. It has to do with the kind of glass that we've used that lets light in but reflects heat out. It's the air conditioning, it's the rainwater harvesting, multiple other things, the farm to fork aspect that you saw. So a lot of that. This is a picture of, again, the farms and the trees that you see at the back. Of course, these are just part of the trees, but we have close to 800 plus trees. And the last ethos that we had is that of remaining humble. When you look at the best universities or best institutions in the world, they have existed for hundreds of years. And some of us actually were very lucky and privileged to have studied there. And the overwhelming feeling that you get out of there is, going in, you think you're kind of, there's a bigger ego potentially going in because you made it to one of these institutions. It's when you get there is you realize how insignificant you are, because there's so many other people who've done so much more and are still humble about it. So we wanted a brand to represent humility. And again, there are two ways that we've done that, or at least two ways that we've done that. I'd show you the 4 columns that we have on campus. But the other idea is to have a Mobius strip as a sculpture on campus which has a quote embedded in it, which will say that the wisest mind has yet something to learn. Here's the campus, the entrance of our campus with those 4 columns that I spoke about. These are actually, 5, 6 story high columns, 21-meter high columns, and an average person is less than 3 meters, so about 2.5 meters tall. Sorry, actually, about 2 meters tall. So the idea here is, as you're walking through these columns, hopefully you realize that how insignificant you are in the bigger scheme of things. We've been an average human being who lives for 70 to 80 years, but the rest of the nature and Earth will last for billions of years more. So let's remain humble in what we achieve, and that's what, again, these 4 columns represent that to us. Yeah, so those were the 4 ethos that drove our branding, because those are fundamental to who we are. Thank you so much. And at this point, I'll pass the screen to Kanika so that Girish can start his presentation. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Amit, for sharing all the ethos and walking us through what Veditya believes in and stands for. Now we'll have our industry expert Girish shed some light on how he leveraged design practices to actually drive our branding in terms of logo and everything else that happens right after that. Over to you, Girish.
Hi, thank you so much, Kanika. I hope I'm audible to everyone. Am I
Yes,
audible?
we can hear you.
Yes.
Perfect. That's the new normal of starting a meeting after pandemic and working from home. So first of all, a little background. When I was working for Vedatya, and I have thoroughly enjoyed the whole process, the ideas which Amit have already shared with you, the ethos and all. This was something very different, and I was really kicked about it, because what he sees is the future. He's not sitting here and just talking about education. He's actually talking about what is going to come in the next 100 200 years, because that's how, whenever, let's say if you are applying for Harvard or maybe any bigger university or maybe more famous one, we always see the numbers which they have, 165 or 100 years. So that actually, and the campus itself actually gave me such a kick about it, that I really wanted to do something very different, very open, very something which can be sustained for a longer period of time. So what I'll do is I'll share my screen, and we'll start about from where we were and where we are today. And first, I'll just take you through a little bit of what branding as an exercise is, and then we'll go into Vedatya as rebranding, right? Okay, another normal. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so as I said, we'll look into the branding first, and then we'll go into rebranding Vedatya as a case study. So a very basic example, this was a picture which you saw, okay, which was promoted for me, and this is me today. So that was branding, and this is rebranding. It's as simple as that. We keep the ethos the same. We just tweak it in a way that it becomes much more younger, much more connectable. I'm a creative person. I should look creative, maybe. Okay, but before that, I'll just take you through a story, a very small story. So this is a story about 6 blind men and an elephant. Blind men, people cannot see the elephant, but they can touch and feel. So once they were sitting around and this thing was walking in front of them with a bell, they said, okay, what is it? So the guy sitting on the elephant said, it's an elephant. So all 6 of them said, okay, we have never experienced an elephant. So he said, why don't you touch it and experience it? The elephant being such a big animal, everyone touched a different part of it, and for all of them, the experience was different. So for someone who touched the tusk of the elephant, said it's a spear. Someone who touched the tail said it's like a rope, or like a snake, or something like that. Someone who touched the ears, it was more like a fan. So for everyone, the experience was different. So branding basically is all about experience, but should we look branding holistically? Holistically in the sense like we as a person who can see the elephant will say, okay, this is how it looks, but we will explore it further and we'll see whether we should look branding at the holistic. So what exactly is design? Design is a problem solving activity. This has been taught, said, or lineaged to people over a period of time. It's problem solving in the sense like, okay, if we have a communication problem, let's say I'm a business, I want to promote that. So, okay, this is how you can maybe do a design, make a print ad, make a TVC, communicate about it. If there is a product which I need, let's say for the example, a mobile, I have to talk to people sitting across. So maybe design a mobile. So that's a product basically design so that the problem can be solved. So nowadays coming into apps so that you can sell your goods, etc., etc. Okay. So is branding only about logo? So branding is like the mother of all those things what we do. May it be a product. Let's say tomorrow we have a product, and if we want to go into the market and start talking about it, so whatever we do, may it be uh, advertising, may it be doing a website, may it be social media, or even that pamphlet which you just print, or even in the visiting card, is part of the branding. So logo itself is not the only branding which we say people, okay, I want to make a brand. So that does not mean that you have to only make a logo to make a brand. You have to do rest of the exercise, right? So what exactly is branding? So it's about, let's say if we take an example of Vedanta. So there are a lot of institutes in India. Okay. So how we differentiate, how we position Vedanta in already communicated mind. Let's say this is a picture of Jeff Bezos. So let's say for myself also, hundreds of things are going with me. For example, like I have to earn money, I have to cook, I have to eat, I have to go to job, I have to finish some work, etc., etc., etc. So there are like list of things which we do every day, right? So in that, and for all those things, so some Colgate brand is talking about, okay, buy this toothpaste, this is best for you, or maybe another brand Patanjali is talking about, okay, this is better for you. And in that over communicated society in mind, we basically position and we say, okay, hi, I'm something new and maybe I'm better for you. Okay, with the strategy and marketing, we basically place that, and that is the whole gamut of branding. That is the umbrella. Okay, and it is done with the help of already existing thought. Okay, already existing thought, I'll just explain it a little further. So for example, A for apple, when we were kids we learned about A for apple. But today when I say apple, it for me it's like the Apple device, Apple. So how it has evolved over a period of time for us, it's all, and Apple itself is the best example for branding. I'll show you how. Okay, so what Apple did basically, it took the need base from the business. Okay, I'm a product, I'm a technology product. By the way, technology itself is a very cold thing. Institutes are very warm, you feel about those things, but when it comes to technology, it's very cold. Like it does nothing to you. It's there, so it's there. If it's not there, then we realize, okay, I need a mobile phone to talk to someone. So it's a very cold thing. So they basically took the insight of the art, culture, and lingo of the people, and then they coined it as Apple. Apple is something, gravity, maybe. Newton was sitting under a tree, Apple fell, and they invented the gravity, and it was the first logo of Apple. We'll go to that. It's in the slide itself, right? So we take need base from the businesses, and we take insight of the people, and we club them together and they serve the right mix of design and common sense. Why common sense is so important? Because we don't want the design to be so heavy or so how to say, so abstract that people does not understand it, right? So for example, like there are a lot of like Nike, Adidas, all those things. Although Adidas is a little bit more on the abstract side itself, but that's also a way to go about it. But everything have a meaning. For example, this we took an Apple as an example, and this particular branding exercise, like putting hoarding and basically using the real short images of iPhone, and placing them as a hoarding is a beautiful way of showing the applied learning, like the way the Vedatya does, right? Applied thinks of how this mobile phone is going to click pictures and place it on the screen. So one guy who does not have Apple will say, "Oh wow, this is a beautiful picture. I want to maybe shoot like something like this." And Apple is saying, "Okay, you want to shoot it like this? There is a device because this guy has the device and he shot it like this. So why don't you buy it?" Very simple, shot an iPhone, clear. So just to condense everything what I said, branding is basically like what your business needs to break through the clutter and grab customers' attention. It can be through the logo, it can be through the social media, it can be through, basically it's all about how you start the conversation with the audience you are going to target to, because consumers are the final ultimate god who are going to buy, see, absorb, make relation with you. So basically we are this person who's sitting alone in a room. Suddenly we go out in the market, we started the branding exercise by saying hello or maybe starting a conversation. Now it's completely up to the person whether we are targeting to the right person or the person is responding right to us, right? So when we do branding, so this is the three basic ideas which we basic areas which we have to be in, right? So one is brand values. So all about, like I said, that the person which you who you saw in that like social media post, that was a person and that was a branding. This is a person. This is a rebranding, but the values, the way I'm talking to you is not changing. The way I am, the kind of traditional, the values which I hold in myself will remain the same, but it's just that how am I packaging myself and positioning differently in front of people is different. So that's why I keep saying that treat a brand like a person. So once you treat a brand like a person, he or she will always be like, okay, you can see what kind of colors, clothes which they are wearing, that becomes your brand color. The way he's speaking or she's speaking becomes your brand tonality, etc., etc. So brand values are very important. Basically they are the foundation, the inspiration, the motivation of that particular brand that is going to, for example, Nike talks about like fitness and all, so suddenly we connect to Nike. Why? Because our inspiration, motivation attached to it. Then comes the brand guideline, which is a very important thing. If you, because it is something which how we are going to conduct ourselves. Everything have to be same. Everything have to be in the same genre. If we deviate from that genre, suddenly it will look like two different brands. Suddenly, like it will be like my twin brother. Okay, so who might have different ideologies and personality about it, right? And in your brand guideline, definitely like all these things like business goal, differentiating from customers, and all those things have to be there. And then the website and digital asset, because after pandemic, the new normal says like digital assets are very 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 important. So what is a logo? Logo is basically a very important element of the branding, because that is like it's like a face of your brand which people are going to see, remember, and attach to you, like basically connect with you. And also, like last line, this is very important. So branding is a verb, right? So it needs an action. Have to keep evolving with period of time, right? Like a logo is a, so I think we have covered this. So it's about psychology, simplicity, and common sense. So these are the three keywords whenever you are thinking about any brand, because that is how you build trust. Because psychologies have to attach with you. That like the color of the screen which you're seeing right now. So yellow, blue. Why these colors are there? So that they tells you about my maybe design sense for that matter. So that is how I am branding. Okay, this is a beautiful example when we say branding is a action, it's a verb and it requires an action. So Google, over a period of time, how it started in 1998 to how it is today, so it's a beautiful example how they have evolved themselves after every given point of time. You can see that the kind of colors which they have, it remains the same. It's like how they're packaging the whole thing makes the whole impact. And why they have done it, because it's not that they just did it for a kicks of it. It's because it requires a freshness. It requires every 5 years we say like there is the generation thing which is happening. So for generation, for the new technology which is coming in, for everything in the gamut, we have to keep evolving. right? So the era of gradients, like this was a gradient, these are the gradients. So the era of gradient is somewhere over. Why? Because we have moved to a more digitalization of things, so everything require a mobile app, a website. So for that, the flat colors, the minimalistic, to attach with the new generation, the Gen Z, which we call, or millennials, which we call, to connect to them, this is something which is a right fit for it. Okay, so that's why this is a perfect example. And I spoke about Apple as well. Look at the first logo of Apple Computer Core. So Newton sitting, and there's an apple which is a sign. It looks like a painting itself. And today, how simplified they have become. And that is how, like, the apple from the tree animated gravity, and we are all pulling toward this brand called Apple. Why? Because the kind of personality, the kind of perception which it has created with its branding exercise have taken a notch above. Beautiful example of rebranding. So, just summarizing everything, whatever I said, treat brand like a person, design the logo like a persona, later position it like a friend in the life of customers. For a brand, making conversation happen is the utmost important thing. And for a customer, feeling right about this new friend is an important thing. And that is how we do. So it's not all the jargon which marketing or advertising people keep giving. It's as simple as that, walking to a new guy and saying hello and becoming friends is as simple as that. But how you do it, it's all about the exercise that require legal technical knowledge, right? So tools can be your idea, USP, target audience, and the common sense. I'll keep harping on this word common sense because I believe that is the one of the most important thing which requires and which lacks nowadays. Anyhow, and this is what we guys do apart from drinking coffee. So we basically have to dig into everything, whatever a brand requires. Basically creating the essence of the brand by connecting the unusuals. So first, it's still a peacock, but the way it is created with banana, or maybe this is still a eagle. The way it's created with flower, it basically gives them a two different meanings and the ideologies, right? So let's break down the logo, and I promise I'll do it very quickly now. So these are the three main elements of the logo. Okay, so form, color, and typography. Basically, form is something which you see like triangles, rectangles. We learned as a child, right? But why form is very important? Because that is the first thing which you see, which you register, which you are going to remember for a very, very long period of time. For example, this. If I say B is equal to an apple, I don't think so anyone in this room is going to believe on me. Okay, they'll say no, A is for apple. Why? Because since our childhood, when we were in nursery class, we were taught, okay, A is equal to apple, and that is how we remember, that is how we say, and that from there the thing comes in is form follows the process, right? That is the form which has been taught to us, and that will remain existing for our entire life. For example, Nike as a logo, Nike does not have to write Nike now. It's just the swoosh which they have to put it, and it becomes Nike. Adidas have to put three stripes, and it's Adidas, right? So that is how a brand evolves. That is how the branding happens. The second most important thing, which we see second, like form is the first thing which we register and we remember for our entire life. Then comes the second thing, which is called the colors. Okay, colors is not only about, okay, making a logo look beautiful. It's all about the psychology and the impression which you want to transform, like a feeling to another person. Suddenly remember, like if I'm wearing white right now, imagine if I'm wearing like very bright color with a lot of flowers and patterns on the top of it. The way you're looking at me would be the perception which you have already made about me with the kind of colors which I'm wearing will suddenly differentiate. Oh no, this guy is like, maybe he enjoys or maybe takes life as beautiful as it wants to. So very easily, what is on this side of the chart you're seeing is all warm colors like red, blue, red, yellows, and pinks and all. And these are the cool colors like green, blues, and stuff. Why? Because again, like psychology, how we see, how we perceive. Okay. The opposite on the spectrum is are basically called complementary colors, and complementary colors are used to create something more stalking, more. Again, the word says complementary, so basically to complement something beautiful. Although they're completely away from the thing, so it basically creates everything peppy, little upbeat sort of thing, right? Typography is the third most important thing because how like for example Intel, the way it's written, it's a typo. There are a lot of logo types which people just create with just the typography, which were called logo marks, right? For example, Samsung or I wouldn't say Apple have a more of a like. Okay, so the four basic segmentation: serif, sans serif, script type, and decorative. So serif are with these edges protruding out, sans serif are without them and straight and more modern. You can say scripts are, they are basically used in when you want to create marriage cards. So not exactly for that, but yeah, for other purposes also, right? So now let's get into how to design a logo. Start with the strategy. Always think about the philosophy. We like Amit discussed about the ethos, and the same ethos he discussed with me, and that is how we started. That is how we actually connected, because the sustainability and all those things, applied learning and stuff which he spoke about, they were very core and near and dear to me as well, right? So start with why we do what we do, basically the philosophy, how we do it, like the attributes, and what we do is physicality. Okay, and then we put them on a essence, like a chart. So essence is the crux of everything, like the main core idea, values, what how you're committed, sustainability, accountability, commitments, and all. Then personality, intelligence, and this personality is basically seen by people. These values are observed by people, the audience, and the essence is something once they are there and when they attach with it, that's why it's on the top of the chart. Once they are maybe on your website, or maybe on your app, or maybe they have seen your work, and then they suddenly start connecting with you. That's the essence which we are giving away. Okay, give it a meaning. Always there's the logo have to have a meaning. It cannot be just an abstract element sitting on the top of it. It have to have a story behind it, right? Do a competition analysis, as simple as that. Like these are the three, and three of them are basically into gaming, make basically making play like the stations on which you can play like okay. And the last and the most important part is always research on your target audience. Target audience are the people who are going to actually sit down, see, absorb. If they don't like you, they are not going to come to you. And when we think, no, if I'm creating something way too beautiful and people will be able to relate to it, I'm really sorry, but the customer is not a moron, she's your wife. This was said by David Ogilvy in 1955. David Ogilvy is like a stalwart, like the father of advertising, modern day advertising, you can say. Okay. So let's go into the case study now. Let's go into how let's and start seeing whatever we have seen so far, and like understanding the different elements and break them down into small pieces. Let's see how we club them all together when it comes to Vidata as a new brand name. Okay. So this the first if there's any question you guys want to ask before we move into this, we I'm open to that as well. Okay, so let's move ahead, right? So this was the logo which we had initially. This was the logo which came to me, and there is nothing wrong with this logo. So if you say I should start rebranding because my logo is not nice, no, it's not that way. It's always how I'm trying to refresh myself, how am I trying to be with this new generation, new audience which is coming to the market, who is there. Like if you know about little psychology about these Gen Z's, they are way ahead of us. Like when we talk to them, the way they respond to certain things, and they are very sure about, okay, I want this, I don't want this. Okay, even in, for example, I was working for something and I came to know that nowadays Gen Z's, for them exercise does not mean that you have to go to gym, pump yourself up and become like all that fit. They are more into another things like complete body, like the way that they're going to take their diet, or maybe the kind of yoga which they're following. They're basically breaking away from the convention. They don't have fear of missing out. They in fact enjoy missing out on certain things, on the old trends. They enjoy missing out on old trends. Okay, so how to grab attention of this new uh, generation who is way vivid and basically two step ahead of us in creating something different. That's why nowadays you would have seen that there are a lot of new youngsters which are coming out with different ideas, and world is actually moving faster. So this was the write-up which came to me, and I started to break that down. So there are a lot of things which Amit have already shared, like Veda and Aditya, and that's how we became the source of knowledge. And so this whole philosophy, this is something which I was speaking about in the slide, that we require how to start branding. Sorry, I'm just going back. So this is this part, the brand values. These are the foundations, and these will never change. So for this particular logo, on the left hand side of your screen and the right, the main essence of this paragraph remains the same. Okay. We push boundaries for lifelong pursuit of knowledge. We be successful not by accident, but through a deliberate path built on the core values. Okay. And how do we achieve it? It's all about applied learning as the main pillar, and the pursuit of knowledge or the source of knowledge as the second pillar, which we have it without there. Okay. So after that, the second stage, which we discussed, start with a strategy. We started to read around things like how the education system is moving in a different direction, how people or how the Gen Z is feeling about the education now. Okay, so it's a basic write-up which talks about, like, not in revolutionary. So all these highlighted points became the key for us to drive this education landscape into a different, more further into a rebranding, and keeping these like places of interaction. Right, campus will not be the main place of delivery of education, but main place of interaction where students exchange ideas and form social relationships, because we learn from each other, and that is one of the part of applied learning. Okay, for example, like, I'm a graduate of NID, and at NID we kept in fact faculty said this, everyone said this, we learned more from our seniors than the faculties. Reason being because when we interacted more, when we started to see things differently, the first person of communication was senior who is walking by or who we can speak to. Looking at their work basically gave us more inspiration. Technique can be taught, but the ideas have to be come from, like, it have to come innately. Okay. So moving ahead, then we start going into, because we had to capture this Gen Z mindset, and we had to see how they are behaving, how they're talking, and these are the real students of Vidatya. And look at their faces, like they are not shy, they don't care. Okay, if it's a group photograph which is happening, they are in their own life, like they are experiential about everything. Okay, so experiential learning became our first Gen Z mindset. Okay, because we were digging in more into the deeper of how to connect with them, is the new norm of future generation, driven by desire to be more, value, ambition, and aspirations. These became our very important keys. Want to explore beyond regular options. Okay, nowadays suddenly there is a spark in people, want to become a chef, or maybe, or like suddenly there is a surge of people who are going into design industry, and something which we never thought in maybe 1998 also. Why? Because that time, in, like, still there are people who only talk about doctors, engineers, and but now suddenly you see, like, people are exploring different ways of creating things more, more toward the society, more toward like their own self being, right? So open to smarter ways of doing things. Where I come from does not limit where I go. This is also very important. Like, it's not important that a person graduated from NID or IIM on all these stalwart institute will reach to the stars. But there are people who are actually employing them, and they are coming from maybe some other background, some other colleges, but they have ideas, right? So Gen Z, so this is the sum up line. Gen Z are all about possibility, passion, and purpose. So these three key pillars became how we wanted to take Vidatya as a logo branding or rebranding ahead. Then we went into the fundamentals. Because we had to define these things, we have to take them ahead so that we are clear that if this exercise, because see, when we are whenever we have a logo, we are already in love or in awe with that logo. Why? Because we have been seeing it for a very long period of time, and we enjoy it, and it's a very difficult step for a maybe for a owner or for a person who who have been seeing or working for over 10-15 years on that particular brand, and suddenly you see, okay, why are they changing the logo? It's very difficult. So all these exercises are very important to see whether our logo or our branding exercise is in the right direction. Is it connecting to the right people? If it's not, then what needs to be changed to connect to the people? Because ultimately, as I said, customer or the consumer is the god. You have to connect with them, you have to say hello in a different place. So like Young and Diverse Institute, that all these things, if we gather them together, this will happen. Innovation driven by student centricity. This is something which is already there, but how to push that further? Sustainability led environment. Amit have already spoken about it, how 800 trees are there, how we are trying to get a green certified thing. And actually, if you go to the campus, when I went over there, it was and I think I went in the pandemic only, and it was a completely different feeling. It was like I didn't want to leave from there. It was so beautiful, so serene, just to sit there and relax. And I can think a lot of ideas when it comes to when I'm sitting over there. Placement oriented applied learning. So applied learning skills, like I think Indian government, Mr. Modi also said skills are important. In fact, all over the world nowadays, skills are seen with a completely bright, beautiful eye. Okay. Then after all these things came together, these become our fundamentals. We started to work on our offering and experiences. Okay, how we are going to reach to this particular thing: possibility, passion, and purpose. We started with these key four words derived from here. Okay, enabling, enabler, not controller; encouraging, student centricity; enhancing, wisdom; respectful, sustainability. Four main pillars, four experience which we are going to give to the students and make them something full of possibilities, passion, and purpose. Okay, moving ahead. And then how should we do that? How should we take it ahead and make it happen? Okay, so this is how. This is the brand personality. This is the brand personality. Okay, so we are going to make our students creator of wisdom, and this is how we are going to speak about it. This is how we are. First, we have to be that what we want our students to be: spirited co-creators, honest and humble. Whatever we are going to speak, brand tonality is something in every communication, how we are going to place it. The basic style, it have to be elegant, spirited, honest, direct, humble. Sorry, I think I have repeated the words. uh, okay, this line is not there, you can just keep it till here. Audacity, grammar, no nonsense, non-interfering, comforting, directional. These two words are very important from the point of view of the new generation which we are talking to. They have ideas. If even if I'm and if even if they are discussing that idea with me, and they want something new to come out of it, at the same moment they don't want me to interfere in their own ideation. They want their idea to remain, but how to evolve that. Okay, that is the co-creation part of Vidatya is very important. Okay, so now from here, once this is the homework which we for every rebranding. Why? In branding also you have to do all these things, but in rebranding it becomes more important. Why? Because you have something to measure it to. So there was a logo, we have to measure it to all these parameters, whether we are doing or we are going in the right direction to create something new, something substantial for people, for the audience which we are going to talk to. Okay, so moving ahead, so these were the exploration. This is how where we started, like just throwing ideas, scribble them down, And these four pillars of the institute itself became very important for us. Why? Because they were representing four Vedas. This particular photograph where you can see the sun very small, but basic source of light, and at the same time the shlokas of Vedas and how we converted that into an opening book like a lotus and reflecting a knowledge to us. This was the first exploration which we started to do. Okay, but I will not speak about why we did not choose this. I will rather say we have explored these. Okay, because exploration is something which will take you to where we are. So these were the first thoughts. Okay, and there was very like strong Sanskrit or maybe the root level which was there, but will the audience connect to this? That was the biggest question. Then the second idea, this was out of the Bodhi tree, which is like a center in the labyrinth of uh, Vedanta itself. So we thought, why not to explore the Bodhi tree, and it's going to talk about a lot about the wisdom, the all the pillars which are there. But somewhere yet the way it was coming, it was still very maybe like my father would have liked it. I would keep it that way. Then we started something with like more modern side of worker and started to see how we can maybe create a UV as a Vedanta University, or if we can maybe plug them in together. But yet we thought, no, there are more. We explored further, we explored further. Then we went into maybe, okay, Bodhi tree is something which we kind of liked. Okay, why? Because it was kind of covering all the aspect of wisdom, applied learning, sitting around, the shadow, the sustainability, etc, etc, everything was coming around. So you'll see that from here to here we have a lot of Bodhi trees, but this particular thing got stuck in our head. This is nothing great, but this actually stuck in our head. And from there, the basic inspiration started into something called stainless art, which you have seen in a lot of churches, lot of people and artists also does that. And it has a lot of things. Why? Because we have so much to say. We wanted it to be an experience for a person who is seeing, who's touching our brand or coming to our website. So we started going around the campus. We had the Bodhi tree, we have farms, we have fish pond, and we have design essence, we have four pillars, we have Veda, Aditya. How to get them together into one essence, one complete, how to say, uh, one complete symbol which speaks about, okay, this is Vedanta, this is what we are. We are experiential, we are applied learning, we are uh, more ahead. So we started to break each element down into one unit. Okay, we have the sun, we have the Bodhi tree, and it's still in the center of the whole logo. Why? Because it was the most important element for us. We have birds. There are a lot of migrated birds which keep coming to the campus. There are a lot of photographs over there, like fish pond which we have created, the four pillars which we have. These three dots are basically a recycling, the sustainability angle which we wanted to bring in. And on this earth we are all present together. So there is earth, there is sun, and it's all about the campus which we want to speak or maybe want to leave the wisdom to the next generation which is coming in. So bringing it together, we these were this was the main idea which made it happen, and this logo was somewhere we all liked. They were there. Or you see all the flat colors are there. There are a lot of colors in the sense like of the same shades. There are a lot of colors, but this is something which is there. And whenever we do a rebranding exercise, we want to see and we want to be sure that it is extendable. Like if I'm talking to a Gen Z who is experiential in nature, who want to explore things further, same with our brand, we should not be stagnant with one way of seeing things ever. Maybe we'll use it one way more as compared to the another way, but everything had a usage. Okay, if we have a square or maybe a vertical format, we will use this logo. It is good, it is giving us a space, it is talking about it. So we want to be more free so that we can show the same to the audience we are talking to. Okay. And when I said typography, when we were discussing typography, I use Ubuntu Bold. There are a lot of beautiful fonts like this Helvetica, there is Futura, there. So in the experiment when we were doing, so there were a lot of fonts which we have already explored. But Ubuntu is a font which was something talking about no nonsense. Why no nonsense? If you see, there is no like protruding edges. There is nothing extra which is in this font on the top. This cut which you see here on T and D basically talks about the progression, which was something we have been basically vouching on. So that's why this particular font became the part of the whole corporate system. So initially we had Allegra. Allegra have two different like in the previous logo which you saw, like the flame and the Vedanta written. The corporate font with that was Allegra. Allegra have serif and soft serif both. But we wanted to keep only one family, font family, which is Ubuntu. Reason being because Ubuntu is more modern. It's and for digital spaces, whenever we are using any font for digital spaces, it should be sans serif, so that the readability is more. When we are using it anything for print purpose, it can be serif, so that the readability. Because like in newspaper, you will see maximum of the fonts which are printed are serif fonts, but on digital spaces, maximum of the fonts are sans serif font, because both the platforms require different looking in that leading is helpful while you're reading into a book or a newspaper on that small size. Okay, so this is how we defined how the header, the subheader, and the body copy and the url will come, and everything was sacrosanctly kept. Okay, we are going to follow this particular method only. Why? So that whatever we do, wherever we go, however we place, put, and design, ultimately the goal should be that this is Vidatya, this is how it looks like, and this is how it's going to leverage further. Same for the corporate fonts. We defined two main corporate fonts, but both of them were complementary. Like I showed you the chart. So orange and blue are two on the opposite side of the spectrum, and they are going to create that jazz which we require, which on a white sheet, very neatly placing these two colors together brings a beautiful, how to say, I call them ocean. Why? Because it's like the ocean and the sky, the orange sky whenever there's a sunset. So that's why we called it golden orange, sea blue, and the earth gray. There's a tinge of brown in this particular gray. That's why it's a earth gray. Then secondary colors, basically these are for the background graphics whenever we have to use it, and this is a part of super graphic. Super graphic is something which you can use wherever you want to use when there is a lack of ideation, and this particular bar will always connote to this particular logo because outer circle is this made of these colors. Okay, and then we took it ahead. We wanted to see how the signage is of, so maybe if you're talking about design, so how it will look like hotel management, etc, etc. So institute signage, so the already it's so luscious green as a place, and if you see, then these kind of designs will come all around. They will give you more it will enrich the whole culture of colorful and brightness amongst the student which they require. And even in the mood board, like this mood board was all about the kind of photography, the kind of images we are going to use. So you'll see everyone is smiling, everyone is happy, there is a bright sunlight on the face of everyone. So that is how we want to keep that culture of positivity amongst the students. So layout wise, how we can do the layouts, how where we have to can place the logo, etc. And then the corporate iconography, same using same two three colors, main corporate colors, gray, blue, and orange. We created all the typography. Very simple static line. Iconography can go in the digital spaces, on websites, everywhere. Then we started exploring. Okay, so when I said branding is not only about logo, it's all about all the extendable angles wherever we can go. So like this is also part of that, right? So now looking to the stationery, corporate stationery, how the website is going to be. I'll take you to the website. So I'll just do a little more dipstick over there. Then I'll take you to the social media pages as well, just to show you the comparison between where we were and where we are now. So now if you see, everything is seamless. Like these two colors are creating that vibrancy and the whole neatness of the layout, and we kept it very straight, very edgy. We never thought of creating curves and circles. No, everything straight like a square. So how a Google Ads can look like, right? So like now you see the usage of logo. If we have thin strip long, so it'll be like this. So that freedom, the sense of everything have to be clear to the customer, clear to the person who's going to see our branding. Email signature. So we use, sorry, okay, my mouse is not visible. Yeah. So in the email signatures also, we will use the super graphic on the top as a divider line. So this is how it's going to be. Then maybe in the emailer templates, how like usage of the same color, same family, application forms. So now you see like everything was properly defined, and that basically made this particular exercise, like the whole branding exercise, as one. So everything looks like a part of each other. Everything looks like a part of one base main family. Like how the Pika is written and how the design was written over there is part of the same family. That is how the whole, that is the culture which we are going to give to students. That whatever you learn, you are going to learn it for forever. That is the whole idea. And like just to give you an example, like I think Airtel is the best example when it comes to Indian market, which keeps reviving their logo, their branding exercise after every 5 years, 5 to 6 years, right? Similarly, how the prospectus is. So again, like keeping the same edges very neatly, like no hill frills and stuff like that, and the kind of colors like orange, the smile, the like little small things about the campus is very is placed together to give that look of yes, this is a place which talks about sustainability, talks about applied learning, talks about okay, we are together and we can learn from each other. For example, like uh, surprisingly, like I don't know how you guys will feel about it, but the reason of keeping the background like main institute in monotone and the student photograph in color was the whole idea about okay, the student centricity. We keep the student first as compared to us ourselves. So small things and details which we were kept in mind to create this whole essence, and like even your stationery, like the kind of color, so that when you're holding a pencil and maybe writing with this, there's a peppiness in you. They, because colors makes people smile, laugh. Just imagine, like there are studies like in West, there are places where like Sweden and all, where suicide rate is higher because people cannot relate to colors because it's always white all around. Okay. Anyhow, so now coming back to the same question, we must look branding holistically. I think we should, because it's going to create a difference in the how a small piece of element, for example, a visiting card or maybe a pencil or maybe a thumb drive which you're holding in your hand, creating that difference. Before this, let's do one thing. Let's go on the website, or also I'll just take you through the corporate colors. There was a, this is how we defined the whole thing, like the colors. So these are the three colors. So this particular color was used for subhead, bullets, highlighted any text, image overlay, buttons, or outlines. This blue is for majorly for headers. The template you saw in the presentation also was defined in these colors only. So header, table header background, or maybe a dark image overlay. And this is only for body text and will not be used anywhere. So, for example, this is a corporate, this is a prospectus. So, this is a header, this is a subheader, this is a body copy, and this will remain sacrosanct everywhere. And when a person sees, when either like there's 6 7 different type of prospectus, they will all look like one family, one institute, one like one mother for everything, right? This was the branding guideline which we have already seen. I'll quickly take you to the website and show you where we were and where we are now. Okay, so this was initial Vidatya. Okay, this was all like one golden orange color, and with the same look we were flowing all across, like sharp cuts which we were using, and maybe overlaying it with orange. And but somewhere there was if I talk about the this particular generation which we are targeting to, somewhere that essence of creating a difference, or maybe creating that connection was missing. So where it, there's nothing wrong in this, but if I talk about the 2021, like we are entering into a completely new era, then things are, after pandemic things have changed. People are started to look for more happiness or self-care and other things. So these are the things which will make a difference, and this is how we started to talk about how do you define success. So success is not only about, okay, it's not only about money, it's not only about have, like getting a premium designation in some organization. Success for people means very, now it's very different. For example, all my friends who, like, they are friends who have passed out from NID. One or two of them are in completely into yoga, they teach people yoga. One is a musician. Why? Because for them that was the path they wanted to choose, that was the difference which they wanted to create in their life. So keeping that, now you see like straight lines, curve, there is no curve. Like initially we were using curves, we were using lines, and like the way we were, but now everything looks a part of the same family. Now if I see this layout, or maybe I see this layout, I can say, okay, this is one, this is part of the same family, there is no difference. And what will happen eventually is, after let's say 3 4 years, when people will keep seeing this, we can even remove Vedatya under this. We can keep only this circle and talk about, whoever will see this will say, okay, this is Vedatya. Why? Because our eye, our, the way we perceive things, we remember the forms, the colors more as compared to the typography. That's why in the presentation also it came toward the end. And same goes for the website. So every element in the website, even the divider in the center, was even the color barcoding, like these were the secondary colors which I showed you, were kept in the sense of, okay, people should not suddenly start feeling out of that this is something little different. No, we, there was no room for that, right? And beautifully, like the way event page comes around. Oh, sorry, this is self promotion, right? So yeah, so how everything can be made into one gamut, how everything will fall into one placement, is all about how a brand can be present in the market and to say, okay, I am different, I am new, I have rebranded myself, this is the new face of me, but yet the values, the ethos are still the same. Okay, so I think I'm open to questions now. This was it from my side.
Thank you so much, Girish. This was wonderful. I think I personally feel I've learned so much more about branding and design. So, powerful presentation. Thank you for taking us through this.
Yeah.
We do have a few questions. Let me go ahead and start sharing those. So, the first one that we have is, how does a brand determine the need and timing for a brand makeover?
Okay, so see, brand makeover timing is usually defined with the audience study. Okay, let's say if I'm a brand which is trying to sell goods to older generation. Okay, and but after a point of time, let's say when I will become older, I'm 36 right now, and when I'll be 45, the kind of values which I'll have will be different. Okay, the kind of the way I'm going to see things will be more wiser, but the main basic personality will remain the same. So according to the generation and the kind of area which we are working on, we keep we have to keep seeing where is the scope, how the audience is behaving, how the people who are consuming our product is behaving, or what, as a person who is creating something, let's say as an institute, what is the new things which we have introduced. Let's say if we have introduced design, so how we can reflect that, how we can offer that to people in the maybe can that be can that be bigger than what we are already doing. So all these parameters basically define the need of look or remodifying ourselves.
Kanika, can I just provide our perspective to this? Another reason.
Absolutely.
So, for us, actually, when you come to the campus, when we moved into the campus 6 years ago, and when we didn't have all this vegetation around, turn my camera. Uh, it was the gray buildings that we have. They were the predominant color on campus. Now, over the years, we've added the greenery on campus. So, that is quite welcoming it's quite welcoming as well. But, I actually personally felt there's still color missing from the campus. And as we think through this brand and how colorful it is, and as we start to implement this brand on campus, in terms of, let's say, danglers that we have, or the signage for the classrooms, or the farms, or all around the campus, as we embed this color, I think it'll just add that personality and the color that we were missing. So that for us, at least, from Vedatya's point of view, it was important to just take that into the element as well.
Right. So suddenly there is a need. So this is how we can define the need from the product side. And obviously audience is the king, like all the time. They keep telling us. And nowadays there are a lot of data which is available all around the internet, which we can keep studying and seeing whether what is the need right now. Yeah.
Perfect. And I think that kind of links to the second question that we have. How does a brand unfold the idea behind rebranding to its customer? Like in a layman term, how would you know? And then how can we assess whether it's working or not?
Okay, so see, frankly speaking, over a period of time with the advancement of technology, I think technology have taken few things away from us and given us a lot of things. Like uh, at the moment, I can whatever I'm searching, whatever I'm seeing, so all those keyword like the way SEO happens, or maybe the data which is available on Google Analytics and stuff like that. So people are like, it's like a big web now, and everything is catered to one particular place which is called the internet. Okay, so all those data can be converted into analytics and people can keep studying them. It requires a technical knowledge. I don't have that but yeah, like my team members would have. And with those technical knowledge you can gain and get to know whether what area you have to work it in. There are possibilities that you might find that whatever I have already, like if my brand is already established, that I don't need branding exercise. Maybe with a very small activity I can uplift the audience further, right? So I hope I have answered the question, but it's the power of the internet. Basically you have to keep studying. There are a lot of free areas where you can see and analyze and like in your particular domain of business.
So,
Thank you,
Kanika,
Girish.
yeah,
Yeah, go ahead, Amit.
right, please. So, I was actually, I was curious about this as well. And, just in prepping up for this webinar, I actually pulled up. So, Girish mentioned the technical aspect of it, and how powerful data is because of digitization. So, I pulled up our comparison. The 3 month, we've now been about 2 months, 2.5 months since we relaunched the brand. So I compared this time period to the previous one. And on what is called Google Analytics, which effectively gives you data on the website traffic that we're getting. And when you look at that, there's some metrics that clearly tell you. The metrics like how much average time a user is spending on your website. And that's a reflection of, to a certain extent, design. There are other aspects that influence that as well, but design is one component that has gone up for us. What is the bounce rate? Bounce rate is something that user comes to your website but doesn't explore it. They just look at one page and then exit the website. That has come down, which means that users are actually exploring more pages. How many pages per session are they exploring? So, all of those metrics that actually In our case, because the name didn't change, the organization didn't change. In fact, the only thing that changed is our brand. Now, there were some technical changes on the back end from the website optimization point of view, but because the brand was the overwhelming difference between the before and after. I mean, I would say that it's quite, the attribution to the brand rebranding effort leading to a better customer experience is actually a judgment that we can come up to.
And I think just to add to that bit, I would say an indication would be from your social engagement as well. Are people engaging more with the creators that they see, or the messages that are being shared with them?
Uh, Amit very rightly said, because what is happening is the world is moving toward user experience now. Okay, every app is being designed, and the whole study is going how the user, the final person, is looking at things and behaving on those things, and everything have a heat map. So user experience, like as I said, this new generation is also about only about experience and how their experiences with one particular thing basically defines everything. So our color, the way branding have happened is according to that particular audience, which have uh, maybe it has a added contribution to the time rate as well.
All right, thank you guys. I do have one question for Girish and Amit, and probably more specific for Amit. Uh, we're talking about design as a theme, right? And we're talking about Gen Zs. What opportunities is whether they're offering to these folks to come and learn more about design? So, are there programs at whether there? Can we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we actually start from the school level. Uh, so, the engagement and the school program that we have actually start from, let's say, class 10th and about. So, there's summer program that we ran this summer in an online mode for the reasons, that we're currently in. But there were online programs for that, which actually took them through basically what Girish mentioned, but in a more elongated and a detailed manner. There is actually another version of the same thing, same foundation program, as we call it in design, that we're starting towards the end of this month. That's going to be on a weekend program, and hopefully, with the physical spaces opening up, we're hoping that we should be able to bring the students on campus, because applied learning and experiential learning, that's best done in a face-to-face format. Um, there's also, I spoke about all the design installations some of that we've done, a lot are in the pipeline. As an example, the food truck that we have, that's something that one idea is to let the students come and, come up with the various designs, and they can actually paint the food truck. And that's a classic example of how, a lot of people talk about interdisciplinary study and training. I mean, here's an example where what is fundamentally a hospitality asset can get the design students involved, not just from a creative point of view, but the idea is actually, like Girish started off with, what is design? Design is about solving a problem. And when you look at a layout of, let's say, a F&B, a restaurant that we have on campus, that could be a design exercise in itself, to say that how is it that we can optimize the customer experience, and the design and the hospitality students can work together. Hospitality from a functional point of view, the design students from a design and implementation point of view. So there's all of those, not just for design in isolation, but actually in a very applied way. Another example, sorry, it just came to my mind, is we have on-campus farms, and we actually, for a visitor who comes to our campus wants to buy the vegetables, we absolutely encourage that. So there's a whole packaging design that needs to happen for that, just so that the experience is not just on the campus, but that experience actually translates back home, and hopefully they share that with others as well. So, there's another example of interdisciplinary design. So multiple things, and these are always evolving.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for answering all the questions that we had. I think that brings us to the end of this webinar. I really appreciate all the participants for joining this webinar, and we will be sharing the recording on our YouTube channel, as I said. So stay tuned. Thank you so much, and have a good rest of your weekend.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thank you. Take care, guys.